Greetings, Internet. My name is Chris, and I wanted to give you a short update on my werewolf build, as well as talk about some new changes to the werewolf with the upcoming Wolfhunter DLC. Let's see, is it actually called Wolfhunter? I forget. Yeah, Wolfhunter. Okay, so I'm on the PTS right now, which means some of the things I might show you can possibly be changed. I don't really know. This is the second week of the PTS, so a lot of the balance changes haven't really gone through yet. I think before we look at anything, I just want to quickly go over what I've done with my gear. So this is also how it is on live right now, where I've made infused, or I've put the trait infused on all my jewelry. So you can see it gives quite a lot of weapon damage. I haven't golded out my gear. That would be the last step, really. Obviously, golding out jewelry is just ridiculously expensive because you need like 10 times the amount of normal legendary materials, and it would cost, I think, close to 2 million to gold out 3 jewelry pieces, which is kind of ridiculous. I've changed the trait on my weapons here. You see they're still axes. I think if I wanted a little bit more damage, I would go with swords, but I don't think the passive from the dual wield, let me find it here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, this one, I don't think this actually works while you're in werewolf form, because you can see it says increase damage by 2.5% for each sword, which means if I had 2 swords I would have 5% more damage. But as I said, I don't think that actually applies to werewolf form. So there's still axes. I've made the main hand nirnhoned and the offhand infused with the weapon damage enchant. And that's about it for the gear. So this is still the same setup, and I think I'll still be running this for the next update as well. But the big changes come from the werewolf form itself. So they've made quite a few changes here. They've swapped around certain passives and stuff. They've changed certain passives as well. Let's see, this one, for example, Pursuit increases your movement speed instead of it just naturally coming from the werewolf form. This one increases resistances, which normally just came from werewolf form itself as well. And the Devourer now gives you time back in the form for every second that you devour, instead of giving you all the time back as soon as the entire animation finishes. And this is actually one of the big problems that currently like the Werewolf on Live currently has, where you'll be feeding on a player usually, and then if that player respawns before you finish feeding, all that time you spent watching your character do the animation has just been wasted. It does stop the timer, which means that you didn't actually waste time in the form on it, but it also doesn't give you back any of that time, which was kind of a really annoying thing to have to deal with. It also restores a lot more health, I think. 8% of your max health for every second. Or maybe it's the entire thing. And restores 8% of your max health. No, okay, every second, yeah. So a total of, how much is that? Like 24% of your max health is restored from it, which is not bad either. Alright, so let's look at the changes to the morphs. I think the best morph to go with now is actually Pack Leader. I would usually recommend Berserker for more bleed, but they've changed the wolves, so they now do a lot more damage. So if you want more damage, Pack Leader is actually your best friend now. As for the pounce, these I would still go with Feral Pounce, just because it gives you time back in the form. Another thing, speaking of time in the form, is Blood Rage. So they've changed this one. It used to be that you would get 3 seconds back in the form with a 3-second cooldown every time you took damage. This has now been changed to 4 seconds back in the form with a 5-second cooldown every time you do damage. So you might think, well, it no longer has a potential of 100% uptime anymore. But the thing is, you get 4 seconds back with a 5-second cooldown. So you lose maybe 1 second every 4 seconds, but it seems to not really work that way, where it's only like very, very slowly draining time in the form. So you'll see that when I do a test on a dummy here in a second. But you can have an uptime of like 4 or 5 minutes without ever having to use the leap to get time back in the form, because it takes so long to actually drain the timer because of this. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it's a lot better now because the uptime is in such a way that you don't have to intentionally stand in AoEs to get time back, which was something that was kind of like a strategy you could do before, because you had to take damage. So like right now on live, one of the main things is when you go into werewolf form, you actually want people to hit you, because that way you benefit from the blood rage. And if they don't hit you, you have to seek out their AoEs and stand in them and stuff like that, which is kind of a stupid way to play, regardless of what you're doing. So I'm glad they actually changed this, and this is definitely a lot better. This change also means that it's really, really good for PvE now. I'm going to show you a PvE setup here after I go through the morphs and stuff. But you can get like 45 to 55k DPS on a werewolf now, which is ridiculous. Alright, so with the heal, they've made a major change to this as well. So you can see it now says it heals you 49% of your max health. And then you've got a choice of 2 morphs. You can go with Hircine's Rage. This used to give you 10% increased weapon damage, and was actually the major reason why you could stack so much weapon damage as a werewolf. But now it just gives you Major Brutality. It used to be that you would get Major Brutality from the Roar, but now, that morph is it gives Major Fracture instead, which is actually really good, because that's a lot more damage as well, because that's like a 5k debuff. So definitely you want to go with Deafening Roar. As for the heal, it's kind of up to you. If you run weapon damage potions, obviously this morph, Hircine's Rage, will be pointless. But if you don't, you should definitely go with this, because that's 20% more weapon damage. The other one increases the healing done, so you can see this one's 49%. I don't know if it actually increases with the levels. It might not. But this is 63%. So obviously a lot more, and it's based off your max health, which means it'll be a really, really good morph, basically, or not a morph, a heal, because even with this one, it's half your health with a heal. It's not like the what's it called? It's not like the Dragon Knight heal that's based off missing health, but instead it's just your max health. So this will always heal you half of your max health, which is kind of ridiculous, honestly. It might have to be nerfed, because that's a really, really good heal. I think it'll be halved in PvP, but that's still 25% of your max health. And I don't know if it can crit or not. It might be able to crit as well. I'm gonna go with the Rage, but that's mostly because I don't run expensive potions with my PvP setup. So I would have to go with this if I wanted the extra weapon damage. As for the Howl, another thing as well, they've reduced the cast time on the Roar. It didn't actually list the cast time, but it would have to finish the entire animation before the fear went off, and now it's like completely instant, which is really, really good. Anyway, they've removed the stun from the Howl as well, which is kind of sad, because that was a really powerful stun. But it still does the same thing of increased damage to enemies that are feared, or the other one that gives the Feeding Frenzy. I'd still probably go with the Howl of Agony, because it's better for PvP. And since the fear is now instant cast, you'll get a lot more damage out of this. As for the claws, I'd still go with Anguish as well, because it's still a major defile, which is just ridiculously strong. And that's about it for the morphs. So let's just check out some damage here. One thing, so because they've changed the way Hircine's Rage is, the max I can get right now is about 8,000 weapon damage with everything procced. So, Kina, Alchemist, and Ravaging. But on live right now I can get 8.6, I think. Anyway, I'll show a picture of it because I can get quite a lot. All right, so pop the werewolf form. Howl. All right. I'm just gonna light attack. Also, I'll see if I can get it to where everything's procced, hopefully. I don't know though. Oh, there we go. Yeah, 8,000 weapon damage, if you saw that. Also, if you look at the timer below my magicka pool, you can see that, so it drains down quite a lot and then it goes up quite a lot. I definitely think this is a lot better. And you can see just with this setup, it's obviously not built for PvE, but I'm still just getting, you know, straight 25k DPS on a dummy by just light attacking. Kind of ridiculous, honestly. And you can see the wolves are, okay, they're inside each other right now, but they are doing quite a lot of damage. I'll show you the breakdown here in a second. But just do, but we'll do maybe like a minute and a half and we'll see where the timer is. So one thing you can do as well is, if you think that suddenly, you know, you're running out of time in the form, you would just, you know, run away and then leap back. And then suddenly you're like way higher again. Because the leap will not only trigger the extra 4 seconds from Blood Rage, or what's it called? Is it Blood Rage? Yeah, Blood Rage. But it'll also do the increased 4 seconds from the leap as well. So you get an 8-second addition to your timer once you leap every time. Which is, you know, the uptime is just ridiculous in that way. So you can basically have 100% uptime in werewolf form a lot easier now. The main thing is just that if people kite you and you can't hit them, you know, you'll obviously run out of the form. So the main way to counter a werewolf now is basically just to root them and outrange them, make it so they can never hit you. So yeah, that's something you also need to know if you're gonna be a werewolf, obviously. Anyway, you can also control the pets in the same way that you would control pets normally, which is using Y. So if I hold down Y and click light attack, or not light attack, left click, they'll be attacking. It's pretty buggy because obviously this terrain is not meant for this, because I've just built this, so it's pretty buggy. You can see they reappear probably when I'm over here. But yeah, so the way you control pets also applies to the wolves here. So if you hold down Y and do left click, they'll attack, and if you hold down Y and do right click, they'll return to you. It's really buggy though, and it's never really worked very well, because if you do Y and right click for them to return to you, they won't automatically attack again until you hold down Y and left click. So obviously you want to use that with some caution, because it may bug you out and just mean the wolves won't attack anything. Anyway, let's break down the DPS here real quick. So you can see just from the light attacks, they all, you know, hit pretty hard. The bleed is quite a lot of damage as well. And you might think, well, since the bleed is the second damage dealer, obviously that's better to go with the bleed morph that does more bleed damage. But if you look at the wolves, you can see here's 1.4, 1.2, and 1.2 again, and all that combined ends up being about 1 to 2k more DPS than you would get from having the bleed morph. So it ends up being more DPS basically, and they're always attacking as well, which is really, really nice. Yeah, so that's basically it. You can see uptime on Ravager isn't amazing, but it's still 52%, which means that, you know, that's still quite a lot of weapon damage. Let's see, Molekina, it's up pretty much all the time. It says 80% because it does drop off a little bit. With the infused, the enchant here on the weapon damage can basically have 100% uptime, because they will always trigger as soon as the duration runs off. But yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna hop over to a different tune. It's a template character that has all the gear that you would probably run if you're doing a PvE setup. do keep in mind that this setup I'm about to show you will most likely be nerfed, because it is kind of ridiculous. Like, you can just light attack and get, 45k DPS, which the barrier for entry there is pretty low, like soon you'll see just raids full of werewolves or something, so this will no doubt be nerfed. But what it involves is one of the new sets, Molekina, and then Reliquin. So the thing is, Reliquin adds a stack and goes up to 20 stacks that each do more damage for every stack. It goes up to 20, which is about, I think, 5k or 6k every second or something like that. And it increases the stacks with light attacks. Molekina also procs off of light attacks, obviously. You can see here Molekina. Reliquin, here it is, yep. So Reliquin, you see it's 200 damage per stack, and it goes up to 20 stacks. So that's that's let me I can't do that in my head for some reason. So that's 4k damage. It ends up doing a bit more because I think it's increased with weapon damage or something like that. You can see Reliquin also has 5% more damage to monsters. But the set that makes it all really, really strong is a new one called Blood Moon. I don't know how good this will be for PvP. Like, it might be really good, but it's it's very, very specific, and it's kind of hard to control exactly. But if you can proc this on a player, you can kill them immediately, basically, especially in a werewolf form. So what it does is, when you deal critical damage with a melee light attack, you gain a stack of blood scent. And when you have 5 stacks, you become frenzied for 5 seconds, which increases light attack damage by 50% and speed by 50% as well. It has like a really long cooldown, but it's really crazy, especially coupled with Reliquin, because you can do maybe like 10 light attacks in these 5 seconds or something. And that builds the stacks almost immediately for this set. You can see I'm running the weapons. You would never actually run the weapons in PvE, because every time you swap, it would run off. But because this is a werewolf setup, it doesn't matter, because you're always on the same bar. Let's see, we don't actually have werewolf ready. Oh, we do have werewolf ready. Never mind. I'm also running weapon damage potions. Okay, and that's it. All right, so let's give this a test. Alright, and I'm just gonna do straight light attacks. Oh, I don't actually have food on. Ah, fuck. Alright, so you can see now I have the frenzy, and I can just spam light attacks. If you look in the upper left corner, it now says 42k DPS. Apparently I'm a master warrior. I forget how much damage to a dummy that is. You see now the stacks are building again in the bottom. 4 stacks and 5, and now I can spam light attacks again. This will definitely give a lot of people carpal tunnel, I think it's called, where you basically fuck up the joints in your hand because you'll be spamming the left mouse button so much. But yeah, like, it's ridiculous that it's this strong. So they'll definitely have to nerf this, I think. Otherwise, you'll see, trial groups of werewolves just immediately killing bosses. Like, if I can get, right now, without food, I can get 42 to 43k DPS from just light attacking. And that's without a very intelligently set up CP. So, with the right champion points, you can get probably 55k DPS. So yeah, like, it's really ridiculous. But I think it's a good thing, like, not necessarily that it's this ridiculous, but the fact that that werewolves are finally kind of useful in PvE, at least. because that's something I think a lot of players have wanted for a long time. So it's good to see that finally in the game. Anyway, I'm just gonna kill this thing and then I'm gonna end the video. But yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm still at 42k DPS. Like, I could get maybe 42k DPS with my stamina DK, which has, you know, really good gear and a really comprehensive, you know, CP setup and a rotation I've worked on a lot and stuff like that, you know. So it's like, it's kind of dumb compared to something like this. But you can see Reliquent did 7.2k. The pets did, let's actually calculate that. Let's just call that 2k plus 1.7 plus 1.7. So the pets did 5.4k DPS. You can see the poison enchant I have on the weapon. Those proc in Werewolf Form as well, and that did, you know, 1.5, almost 1.6. The bleed did 8.1. Light attacks almost 20k. You know, it's just it's really, really strong. Obviously, they're gonna have to nerf this because it's kind of ridiculous, right? But at the same time, it's good that werewolves also have a use in PvE now. Also, if you're wondering why my timer is invisible, it's because I'm in one of the new houses, Hunter's Glade, where you can be in werewolf form forever, which is kind of a neat thing, I think. I guess a lot of role players might enjoy this. But yeah, anyway, that's just kind of what I wanted to show. Hopefully people who are interested in knowing how werewolves were going to stand with the new update here will have some more in-depth knowledge about that now. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.